Welcome to the Traders Corner podcast. You can find all things Forex, whether it be platform or course reviews, general market education, or current market events. You can find it all here at the Traders Corner podcast. Today, we have an episode talking about why we all decided to change a strategy. So, at some point in each of our trading journeys, we have decided to change our strategy, either drastically or a little bit while we've been trading live or before we started trading live. Regardless, we've all decided to either add more, take out more, or just kind of do something completely different with our strategy. So we're just going to talk about why we came to that decision, because I think it's important to talk about, because it's something that a lot of newer traders will face when they come into the industry. They'll have this feeling of wanting to jump from strategy to strategy and wanting to chase, it's called shiny ball syndrome in Forex, and basically, wanting to chase the strategy with what you think will give you the best, not what you think will give you the best returns, but what looks the coolest at the time, what you think is maybe you're having problems with the strategy you have right now, and then you see this other strategy that looks super easy to follow, and so then now you leave the strategy that you're with already, and then you start, finding a new one. While it's never wrong to change your strategy, it's important that you change your strategy for the right reason, because it's important to change your strategy because the market will change. The market is only ever the traders that are in it at that one time, so it's reasonable for us to expect the market to change. So our strategy might have to change a little bit, but we have to make sure that we're changing it for the right reason. So we're just going to talk about why we all decided to change our strategies, and to give you some of those reasons why you might think about changing yours, or kind of help frame your thinking when it comes to maybe you're thinking about changing your own strategy. D-Hart?
The reason I actually decided to change my strategy was because the original strategy that I was using, the original strategy that I developed, I wasn't as confident in it as I needed to be in order to deploy it in a live market successfully. Because I did backtest, you guys weren't with me during all my backtesting, but we did a lot of backtesting sessions together, you know what I'm saying? So you guys were there with me, and as I was developing it, and I did do a lot of backtesting. I gathered data, but honestly I still wasn't as confident in it because because it was my first strategy. I didn't really understand how a good strategy, what a good strategy looked like. So for example, the course that we took, the first course, we've said it before, but they not once in the course did they ever mention a rule. Not one rule was mentioned ever. And because of that, I had to develop my own rules. But honestly, now looking back on having the strategy I have now and looking back, I know for a fact that I didn't have as many rules that I needed for that strategy to be successful. And there were things I didn't even think about to create rules for, and that's actually the reason that's not the reason I switched, but I switched because I wasn't as confident in it. And after switching, I realized that I wasn't as confident in it because I didn't have it wasn't as solidified, and it wasn't as fleshed out, and I didn't have as many rules for every single thing encapsulating my strategy as I really needed for a successful strategy.
So I think kind of with that is you didn't really change anything, because even before you started trading live, you saw that there was something lacking, and even though that is a change for sure, because you went from purely a price action strategy to now using a lot of indicators, you saw that there was something lacking, from your trading. And I think that's kind of a little bit different from myself, where I didn't feel anything was lacking. I had gotten to the point where and we talk about this video all the time, on how to think like a professional trader, or also in trading trading in the zone. Mark Douglas describes the 3 stages of development, where it's you're mechanical, then you get subjective, then it's intuitive. Basically, I was very well into the mechanical stage, and I was very much operating with the strategy. I felt I had a lot of rules. I spent, D-Hart was saying, I took the same strategy as the same course as him, to develop my first strategy. But it took me a while, because of everything that D-Hart was saying. It took me a while to develop all the rules that I needed, because even when I had a strategy, I realized that I, like D-Hart was saying, didn't have enough rules around it. And I was at a point in my trading when I was willing to beat my head up against the wall to forced to develop those rules and like kind of force the issue and eventually become successful, which I did, and I developed a strategy that worked. But I really changed the strategy really because I think in all of it, I was just more so obsessed with the the idea that I've developed a strategy. I didn't stop once to think, was the strategy that I was developing right for me? I just wanted to have one so badly because like, I guess I wanted to say like, I sat there, I went through all this work, I went through all this grind, and I actually developed a strategy. But again,
and you
like,
spent so much time on it that like you're
I
like,
didn't want to give up.
like this has to work. Like
Exactly.
I've put so much time and effort into it, like it has to work.
And I didn't want to stop and think maybe it's been taking so long because I'm not trading in a way that's like congruent with me and congruent with the way that I want to trade. And I kind of started following like other people on Instagram throughout the journey of like developing a strategy, and I saw the strategy I use now, Falcon, like a lot through the people that I followed. And not only were the people that were with Falcon like people that I listened to, like not just, it wasn't about technicals, but it was more so about like the journey of how to navigate being a trader. So kind of the same thing that we're doing now. Not only did I respect them in that sense, but like I could see that they were people who felt very comfortable with the strategy. And so I was like, maybe I'll try it. And then on top of that, there was the last part of, one, I didn't feel comfortable with it, and two, again, this goes along to, I never stopped to think, does the strategy really work for what I want to do? Two, it doesn't really work. The strategy that I developed wouldn't have really worked for me having a 9-to-5 and that being a part of my life and the other things that I want to do, besides just trading being a part of my life, right? So like, I might, if I get into real estate, I might have to go into a meeting about a property. I might have to, go into a business meeting. I might have to go to some other meetings, just from me being an entrepreneur, and I can't be at the charts all the time, where this strategy kind of required me to be at the charts. Not all the time, but pretty much like all the time. Like I was kind of always checking my phone, and it was kind of like a lot. So I never really gave that thought. And so when I really thought about it like that, and I thought about the fact that, one, did I really feel comfortable with it? Two, was it congruent with the life that I wanted trading to create for me? And I realized that it wasn't. I decided that it was time to change my strategy. So that's a important consideration when you're talking about a strategy. Think about the life that you want trading to create for you, not just fitting trading into your life.
Yeah, so I guess we're on me now. Before, like I used to do like, y'all know me, I used to do like range trading and whatnot. And like why I switched from that was because like I realized after I switched also, like as you two realized, like, well, more like D Hart realized, like I didn't really have enough rules like to set up where like I was like following just like step by step, not like I was very much, it was kind of off the cuff a little bit. Like while I did have some rules, I don't think I had enough for like every single.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but like
that's fine.
For me, I created rules for everything that I back tested and everything I saw, but like I didn't create rules for things that I couldn't have foreseen. Like for example, like in like computer science, there's this thing called error handling. Like you plan for things that you don't foresee, like you don't think could happen, like that you don't think will happen, but like it's possible that it might happen. So like in case of something that you didn't plan for, do this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have rules like that in my strategy because I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Right.
And like the strategy I have now has stuff like that.
Right.
And like I didn't, like you were saying, like I knew there was something lacking in my strategy, but like I didn't know what it was. But like that's why I really didn't have confidence in it. Like I knew in my gut it wasn't a good strategy. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, it wasn't a good strategy. Like was my back testing profitable? Yes, but like any data can be profitable if you kind of force it to be profitable.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
and I feel like that's what I was doing. So like the data that I was gathering, it didn't paint the actual picture of what trading would be like.
That's huge right there.
Sorry.
Also, I agree with you. Like, also, I feel like I didn't have enough confidence in my strategy either. Like, I was very much forcing things. Like, another thing I realized with my strategy was that I wasn't like taking the amount of trades that I wanted to. Like, I would find myself waiting like in between, since I was purely trading ranges. Like I would find myself waiting like long
I mean, yeah,
periods
because
of time.
if there's no range, you could go a month without seeing a range. You know, I mean,
yeah,
that's an excessive
exactly.
amount of time. But like,
Yeah,
you know,
no.
what I'm, like it's the concept. Like you could
Yeah.
go a very long time without a range forming, and then you
So,
wouldn't
yeah.
even have the opportunity
Yeah.
to take a trade.
So I needed like to create a strategy where I would create more situations for myself to like actually trade. You know what I'm saying? You can't just. You can look at the chart all you want, and like if you're not trading, then you're not gonna make
It's huge too.
any money.
Yeah, because I think that's another consideration that you have to think about too, is like how often do you want to, and that kind of goes along with like what I was saying about like what type of life do you want trading to create for you. Like how often do you want to be in the markets? Like, you know, DeHart, like maybe he wants to be in the markets a little bit more, so you know he's gonna have a more involved strategy, a more intraday strategy, whereas me, I'm okay with, like I was saying, with everything that I want to do. I'm okay with it being a bit more hands off. So I think, you know, that's definitely a big consideration. Do you have anything else that you want to add, Isaiah?
No.
DeHart?
No.
Well,
Honestly, I would also add to something that you were saying. I don't think it was really trading with my psychology. Like even like although I created the strategy, I wanted to believe in it so bad because like I put in all the time and effort, but like I really don't think it meshed with my psychology. Like I'm a, like he said, I'm an intraday trader. Like I like to be in and out quick as I possibly can. Like if I can make 30 pips in 2 hours and then be done for the rest of the day, I would love that. You know what I'm saying? But like the strategy that I had before, like it didn't work out that way. And like the strategy I have now, it's a fractal strategy, meaning like it'll work on any time frame, like no matter what time frame you go. You can go 1 minute, 5 minute, 15, 1 hour, 4 hour, whatever, and it'll still work. So like really depending on the trader that you are, if you want to be a swing trader, intraday trader, whatever, you can still use that strategy. But like the strategy I was developing before, it only really worked on the 1 hour or the 4 hour, you know? And like that's not the type of trader that I wanted to be. But like I didn't even think about that. So these are all considerations that you should these are all things you would like to consider if you would if you're thinking about like switching strategies,
or even
or
if you're
stuff like
creating
that.
a strategy.
Or if you're creating a strategy for yourself. That's true.
because we're actually going to do like a whole different thing about like the difference in the types of traders there are, because like we often talk about like swing trading, intraday trading, you know, and then like there's even like what's called like scalping and stuff like that, like position trading, which is like above swing trading. So you know, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you could possibly trade, and like these are all like things that you want to consider when you're creating a strategy or thinking about changing it. But don't think that this is like the catch-all list and this is everything. Like, you know, there's definitely more out there, and definitely like just give it a lot of thought. And like I guess if we could leave you with one thing from this whole episode, it would be like, don't make it a snap decision. Make it something that you really think down and like think on, and really make sure that it agrees. The reason that you're changing is because, you know, there's something going on with like your psychology or like your overall just agreement with the strategy, and not so much you think something else looks cool. So yeah, this has been the Traders Corner podcast. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope it provided some value to y'all, and please join us again next time. Thank you. And my phone, poor for me.
Solid 14 minutes.